Welcome to Spiritual Talk with Christy Godwin and Friends, an authentic podcast where we sit and discuss all things spiritual. Hello, beautiful souls. I want to welcome everyone back to my podcast. My name is Christy Godwin, and this is my podcast, Spiritual Talk with Christy Godwin and Friends. I have Anita Marshall with me today. She is a soul plan practitioner and instructor. She is also a spiritual life coach and an energy healer. She is truly gifted at bringing people in alignment with their purpose on this earth. Thank you so much for being here, Anita.
Oh, thank you. So lovely to be here and talking to you about something I'm very passionate about, and I know you're equally passionate about as well.
Yes, I've traveled this path with Anita for a while. And for those of you, I'm not sure which country you are listening to this in, but don't you just love listening to Anita and her beautiful accent? She's probably thinking, what accent? You're the one with an accent. But Anita is joining us today from England, and so I just love to listen to her talk. So now, Anita, can you tell us a little bit about the history of the soul plan?
Okay, so soul plan is actually an ancient system of life purpose guidance. It actually originates from some ancient Hebrew texts called the Sefer Yetzirah, and those ancient texts hold the traits and the polarities that we know in soul plan. Then it has developed through some iterations. And so in the last century, a gentleman by Frank Alper received the system and channeled some extra aspects to it. And that is the system that has then gone on to become the modern day one that we know as soul plan. So soul plan was in the current form, the modernized form, is by a gentleman called Blue Marsden, who channeled through even further additional life purpose aspects to it. And it builds up on everything from the past. And he continues to work with Katrina Alper, who was Frank Alper's wife, to bring the fullness of soul plan and for life purpose guidance for people, helping them understand their lives. And it's just truly amazing system.
You know, it is beautiful. We will, for those of you who are listening to this or watching, according to what social media platform you're connecting with us on, we're going to talk a little bit about how Anita and I got into it, like why we chose this system, how it resonates with us. But stay tuned, because we are going to pull up a chart in a little while and really walk through how it can be applied to different people's lives. The chart we're pulling up is actually mine, and it has my energies, but just know that your energies will be resonating with you and will have your own beautiful energies that you can access and really define why you're here and give you some guidance and direction. So now, Anita, why did you become a soul plan practitioner and a teacher?
Okay, I kind of took a bit of a scenic route to get to here.
The scenic route.
So, yeah, my past was that I used to work in corporate IT. I ended up taking a break when it totally destroyed me and I got totally burnt out, and I ended up traveling. And during my travels, I ended up deciding I wanted to be a life coach and not work in corporate IT anymore. So I looked for some life coaching courses, and because I'd really encountered that spiritual holistic approach during my travel through India and Asia, I was looking for a very holistic, spiritual based coaching practice. And I came across a course and signed up for it. And part of that course was soul plan. So I learned I firstly encountered Soul Plan as part of my training to become a life coach. It was also part of the spiritual counseling diploma. So it kind of, that was my first encounter to it. But it was something that could be offered in its own, on its own, it's outside of that. And I just really connected with the system. And it was just so beautiful. I learned it from Blue Marsden himself. So I
very nice.
right back at the start of this. And so he taught me it, and I really connected with it. I saw the power and the potential when I gave the readings to my clients, and it also was just so powerful in my own life. It was like all these jigsaw pieces coming together. I think you probably get that idea, you know, how it suddenly brings everything together and you see the full picture. And then after a few years of practicing, Blue Marsden decided he wanted to have some teachers for Soul Plan rather than just him teaching it. So he asked me to be one of his first teachers. And I have to say, I have Soul Plan energies that my initial reaction, my challenge energies meant I went, no. My first reaction was no. The thought of doing teaching, my knee-jerk reaction. Luckily, because Blue Marsden knew my Soul Plan, and he kind of gave me that little nudge to go and check back at what my purpose was, what my goals were. And when he did that, I kind of turned around and said, okay, I'll give it a go. And that was so much the best decision I'd made, because as soon as I did it, as soon as I started teaching, it was like it totally lit me up. And I loved doing it. And that was now over 12, 13 years ago now. So I've been teaching it a long time. And every time I teach it, it just lights me up in the same way, because it's part of my purpose. It's what I'm here to do. It's part of my own soul destiny, and therefore it's very aligned. And that's what I love to do, is, you know, when we're aligned, we get that real.
Yes, you do. Yeah. Now, when is your next class coming up that you're going to be teaching?
So my next one is on the 28th of June. So I've got one coming up really, really soon. So I run them a few times a year. And the 28th of June is my evening times. So it's going to be run on my evening times, UK evening times. So it would be, you know, kind of very suitable to US people, because time zones. But yeah, I teach, it's taught online. It's live online training. So I do teach the courses to students around the world. So the next one.
Yes, I do remember when I took the class, Anita was my instructor. And when I took the class, I was up at a ridiculous time, because it was UK time for basically UK suitable for their time frame. And I was up, it was early in the morning, like 3:30, 4 in the morning. But there were also other US people taking this class also. We were dedicated. Now, I do want to tell a little bit of story how I became involved in the Soul Plan. I came about a little bit different than Anita, because I am, of course, a psychic medium. And I already had my psychic medium business up and running. But I noticed that when people come for psychic mediumship reading, there's a ton of healing. But it's like initial healing. Once someone has been in contact with their loved one and they see that they're okay and they are beautiful and they are in this unconditional loving environment, then they start reflecting on themselves. What can I do? Where can I go? And I was really looking for a way to give people a purpose that is more black and white, that they can resonate with, if that makes sense. Because yes, you can come to me and I can pull up your guard, your people around you, your support team from the other side, your spirit guides. I can pull them up and I can tell you what they have to say. But when you do a soul plan, it is more tangible. It's more understandable for people who are not really there and wanting to access the spiritual realm just yet. So I searched and searched. It was so funny because I sat down and was doing a search online, and I had never heard of Soul Plan at this moment. And I was just asking my guides to come in and show me where I needed to go. So I put in a lot of different words, lots of combinations in Google searching, and Anita's name came up every single time. Her website did. So I was like, what is this? And who is this lady? So I read her about her website. And then Anita has, if you're ever curious, she has where you can go and register to ask her questions. Like she'll meet with you and you can ask her questions about it. And so I did that. And I was like, okay. And I was so shocked because we got into this class, and there is also a book. So anyone listening or watching, there is a book you can buy. It's called Soul Plan by Blue Marston. Most people had this book. I was like, there's a book? I didn't know there was a book. And so that was my first endeavor into it. And I just want to encourage people, if you want a soul plan, they are fabulous and they can be standalone. Like Anita had mentioned, they can absolutely be standalone, or they can be encompassed with continuing appointments on how to really implement those energies into your life. My most popular appointment is one that is a combination soul plan and reading. And then you can continue to get life coaching from that. And Anita has the same thing. She has packages where you can buy the soul plan. And then if you want some more direction on how to implement those energies in your life, she can certainly help you with that. But also, I want to just praise Anita's teaching for a moment, because I am a college instructor by trade, college instructor for 20 years. I'm kind of picky about how classes are taught, because I just know that people learn better with great foundation. So sometimes when you go into a class and you're learning something and the instructor is laying the foundation, you can think, why are they talking about this? What is this about? Let's get into the meat of it. That foundation is so incredibly important to solidify the information. Anita did such a wonderful job with that. And that is why she kept popping up when I was Googling, because my guides knew that was who I needed. She's very good about step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. This is a very methodical way of implementing it. And then you get into the meat of it. So if anyone is interested in learning Soul Plan, I highly recommend Anita's class. Like I said, she has one coming up on June 28th. Okay, so now if you're ready, Anita, we'll share a Soul Plan.
Yep, let's go for it.
Let's do it. Okay, so for those who are watching this on my YouTube channel, the Soul Plan just popped on the screen. For those of you who are listening to it, audio only, we'll walk through what just came up on the screen. So what just came up on the screen is my personal Soul Plan. The Soul Plan is based on the energetic vibration of your name. So the first thing that will be asked for anyone is to give your name as it appeared on your birth certificate. And I know there can be a lot of people saying, oh, there was a mistake on my birth certificate. There are no mistakes. We always go back to the original birth certificate and how it was on there. And now there is a way that you can come up with the numbers manually. I believe Anita uses the computer program that you can purchase just because it's easier and there's less mistakes. The computer program doesn't make mistakes. As you're doing it by hand, you can easily, add incorrectly or combine the letters incorrectly. So this is my personal Soul Plan. It is called, if you want to take it, what it's called, Anita?
Okay, so what we're seeing here is the Star of Creation. Now, this Star of Creation is actually holding Christy's energies that are her Soul Plan energies. And that's what we've seen here. So this star, you can see the star is actually made up of downward facing triangle and an upward facing triangle. So the downward facing triangle is the part of the Christy's journey where it's about the worldly connection. So this is very much the part of our life we're focused on in the first 35 years of the life generally. It's about our connection to the world. So it's about our, as well as our career and work, it's about our relationships, our emotional aspect to ourselves, how we interconnect in a worldly sense. Then we have the upward facing triangle that points towards spirit, and that is representing our spiritual part of our journey. It's always present, but we tend to become more focused on working through this part of our soul journey after the 30-35 mark. Some people encounter it earlier, some people later, but then as we work through it, we kind of it's an unfolding journey as we move through the worldly into the spiritual. And you'll see for both of those triangles, we've got challenges, talents, and goals. So challenges are things the soul has chosen to experience as a growth opportunity. These are these can be difficult life experiences. These can be aspects of ourselves that we find difficult. But if things are easy, we don't do anything and we don't learn anything new. But when we get a challenge, we have to kind of step up. We have to get off the couch and start to do something about it. And that's where the growth is from a soul's perspective. Some of them are not always the nicest experiences from a human side, but from our soul side, they are the ones that give the growth.
You know, I so agree with that. I always call the worldly challenges the opportunities. And I want to remind everyone watching that no one comes to this earth and gets a free ride. So everyone, as we're walking through this, our challenges, I have noticed, and especially with my own, don't go away. Our energies are our energies. We just learn how to kick our talents in a little bit faster. And when you are cognizant, when you understand what your innate challenges are, then and you understand what your innate talents are, it's easier to overcome some of those challenges. And I did want to ask, Anita, I have noticed in my own practice with the change in the vibrations going on in the world right now, people are starting to really open up to their spiritual side earlier than I had seen in the past. Are you noticing that?
Yes, yeah, I'm increasingly, when I first started this, like the 12, 13 years ago, my journey with working with Soul Plan, it was mostly people coming in their 40s for readings, you know, late 30s, early 40s. Now I'm doing readings for people in their mid to late 20s. And really, or just into the 30s. So we're seeing them moving forward as there's this kind of an awakening, I think, that's happening on the planet, where the energy shift is changing and it's awakening people up to the spiritual side a lot quicker.
What I'm also getting is a lot of people that have young daughters or sons that are in their early 20s. So I will give a soul plan to the parent, and they are so moved by it. They want their children to have access to the information. And so they send them my way. So it's great. When I first had my soul plan, I got a soul plan about the same time I took the class. And I was thinking, I wish I had known this 20, 30 years ago. It was so nice. So now let's roll into my challenge. We're about to lay me open for everyone to know exactly what I'm made of here. Rolling right into my challenges, which we see are an 8-8. So now I'll talk a little bit about it, and then we'll have Anita just kind of tear me apart for everyone. Lay me open for everyone to see my challenges. So I do joke, and it's funny because I had always joked before that whenever things had happened, I had a really hard time moving past them. And it's not like I didn't forgive, but they would keep playing over and over in my head. And when I had the soul plan, I realized that is one of my innate challenges, is being able to move past and truly moving past what has happened and moving in forward. Also, another one of the challenges of this is self-sacrificing. That is absolutely something that I really struggled with in my 20s and 30s, is being just really giving of myself too much and not setting up appropriate boundaries.
Yeah.
Also, this 8-8 can be very sensitive, and that I noticed. And when you're having a soul plan, you will notice some of the challenges from your childhood, and some of them you overcame, and then you'll notice other ones affecting you kind of in your teens to 20s. And so I noticed the oversensitivity being when I was really a child.
Yeah, they're so 8/8. All need.
I'm the epitome of an 8/8.
Most definitely.
So now, did I miss any of my challenges that you would like to speak on of the 8/8?
So yeah, you've covered that sensitivity. So the 8/8 is what we call kind of the Earth Mother energy. It's very connected to the Earth, but obviously you encountered it as a challenge. So there's that sensitivity is coming because there's this, like, it's a shock to be on the Earth with this energy, and there's a little bit of a resistance to grounding into being here, which naturally you want to withdraw from the Earth. So that kind of sends your energies upwards into your headspace as well. And that which is what you said, you tended to kind of think things and that, overthink it and get into the headspace. So yeah, it's that kind of resistance to it. And also that Earth Mother energy can mean that can be some issues around kind of the mothering energy with this. So that can be, a personal level and an external experience as well. So we can get it from the personal, that we find it hard to mother ourselves, or we become this sacrificial mother, as in, sacrificing yourself for others, as well as an external experience of it, which can be very traumatic for an 8/8 who can find it very difficult to let go of experiences.
Right. I mean, I do want to, real quick, if you look at my chart overall, what you will notice for those who aren't looking at it, I have an 8/8 and a positive aspect in my chart, which is actually a beautiful thing. That's the first you'll notice when you come to charts. If you have a challenge and you have the same number and a positive side, it's a beautiful place to be, because you have the talents to overcome that challenge. But I also do want to say exactly the same, some of the challenges that Anita had. I had a very, let's just say, less than stellar upbringing in relation to how I was nurtured or not nurtured by my mother. And I have always had a great connection to the earth. Innately, I knew that if I wasn't feeling well, if I was feeling in my headspace, I have to go outside. Now I have words for it, but I would have to go hiking. I would have to sit in the trees. We moved to Nebraska for my husband's job. And the first thing I said, the real estate agent was taking us to all these beautiful homes in these brand new neighborhoods with no trees. I was like, yeah, I can't live here.
So not good for you. And you need that natural connection.
Right. So he started showing us some older, more established homes that, yes, we had to do work on, but I also had my trees in my yard. So I can definitely attest to that. So now we've kind of talked over some of my challenges. Let's move down to, when you go from the challenges, then you want to look at the worldly talents, because we just talked about worldly challenges. We're going to talk about the worldly talents. What energies do I have that I can kick in that are a part of me to really stabilize me and overcome any challenges?
Okay, so yeah, the talents are like our key to unlocking so they're the key to unlock the challenges. So you've got this beautiful 11/2 energy, which does look quite a structured shape alongside a very bouncy shape. And an 11/2 is one of the polarity energies, so that comes from the original origins of it, the Zephyr Yitra, and it's the polarity of life and death. And it is, but with this, it's about really having a deep acceptance of change and the transience of life. And it also gives you this beautiful ability. It's a very structured energy, but also a very resilient energy ability with it. So there's an ability to be very resilient and hold and have a structure. So we often see this with people who take counselor roles and things like that, where they have a structure to support and this is an energy that would have been very supportive of yourself initially, probably in your earlier years. It would have given you that a balance between a bit of logic and structure alongside some resilience to help you overcome some of that overly sensitive energies, that escapism energies. But then it's something, as it's a talent, it's something that you bring to others. It's something you give to others and can do for others, provide that supportive space, create that supportive space for others with this. And interestingly, it's the life and death. And you, because I was going to say, you've got all these 8-8 energies in your chart, which is clairvoyance. The number of 8-8 energies you've got in the chart indicate a clairvoyance ability, and we would kind of know that just by looking at your soul plan with all of those. But then we see this 11-2, which is this ability, you know, this life and death, and I kind of love that with there's also that aspect there to really kind of make that connection between the change of life with this, what, you know, the change of status of life with life and death. And there, so that is I think said in the first reading I really got through with you is, you know, beyond the veil, that 8-8, that 11-2 was that kind of beyond the veil energy field to going on it here, and that's what we see with your talents here.
Yes, and just to what Anita said, when it all comes together, for those looking at the chart or listening to it, we talk about whenever a chart has a lot of the same numbers in it, that is prevailing energy in the chart. I have 3 sets of 8-8s, which, as Anita was saying, is a sign of kind of the ability to see across the veil, that clairvoyance. And then with the 11-2, how I've kicked in those talents is I do a lot of life coaching. And when she says I offer stability to others, before I even took this class, I have always been a stabilizing factor no matter where I was. I didn't realize, you know, once you get a soul plan, you realize, oh yes, it's part of who you are. And I truly undervalued that in myself. And I will say that's a beautiful thing about soul plans is that was just me. So you don't realize that it's really part of your talent. It's part of your innate energies that you bring to this earth plane to help society as a whole. And I think the soul plan is beautiful at pointing those out to people. It's like, no, not everyone has this beautiful talent. This is what you bring to the earth plane to utilize to help those around you.
Yeah, I find that so often when I'm doing readings, people have dismissed something and not recognized their talent. And that's the thing that's limiting them. That's the thing that's holding them back, because they've dismissed it, they've put it aside and not recognized it, they're not using it. And that's where sometimes they're kind of disconnected and not feeling fulfilled. But as soon as that kicks in, once they recognize it, they can go, okay, and start using it. And then it's like the world opens up for them, really.
Yes. And when Anita was talking about the 8-8 being clairvoyance and being able to connect across the veil, that is something when I was a child, I had voices in my head and I truly thought I was, you know, not normal. I really thought I was, you know, just a freak. And now I realize it was spirit voices. Also, the 11-2 has the ability to, I like to call it also the street smart number, because this number has the ability to take mistakes and turn them into wisdom. And that was innate in me also, as when we were talking about when I was younger and I was really experiencing some of the 8-8 challenges, that was a part of the 11-2 that was innate in me. And I knew that everything I was going through and was happening, I was going to be able to use that for good later.
Yeah.
So that was something
that's what gives you that resilience, that ability to kind of bounce back. You could apply that innate wisdom to your situations, and that, you know, because an 8-8 is sometimes very sensitive, and that, you know, maybe some of the situations would have been very crushing to an 8-8 without your 11-2 talent to help you with this.
Yes. And I do want to remind everyone that I know sometimes we feel like when we're in the thick of some of our challenges and they're really raising their heads, that we don't have what it takes. But I like to remind everyone, we're never put on this earth without the energies of positivity to be able to charge forward and overcome our challenges and walk through those opportunities of growth.
That's exactly what our soul talents are. They're there to help us overcome our challenges. Sometimes it's really obvious how they will do it, but other times you have to think outside the box a little bit, but they are definitely there to help. We can clearly see with your 11-2 and that 8-8 exactly how that is designed to help an 8-8, you know, how those and how you can then bring that out.
Yes, and again, it was one of those moments where I was like, man, I wish I had known I had access to, now that I had gotten older, I had just self-discovered some of it, but it's so nice to see it in writing. And I want to reiterate, the thing I see the most is people undervaluing their talents because it's just a part of them. And you assume since that's a positive part of you, it's a positive part of everyone. But that's not the case. Everyone has their own positivities and how they utilize it on this earth. So we talked some about my worldly challenges and talents overall. Where does that take you? You're looking at the chart. We're going through the downward facing triangle because it's the worldly side. So once you kick in your talents and start overcoming some of your challenges, what goal are you headed to? That's the next thing we have.
Yes, so we'd move towards the goal. So I always say it's a bit like you've been presented with a closed door with your challenge. Your goal is to get to the other room. That's your goal. And your talents are the key to unlock it. So once we've accessed our talents, it gives us an opportunity to get through to our goals from a soul's perspective. So for you, you've got this beautiful 15-6 energy, which is actually very soul connected straight away. So you've got quite a lot of spiritual energies already going off in the worldly sense. So that's not the case for everybody. Sometimes we all have maybe a little bit more of a muggle start to our lives, you know, and borrowing from Harry Potter there, the little muggle.
Right, no, that's what we call them. That's what me and my friends call it, the Muggle World.
So we sometimes, you know, have a bit of more of a muggle start to it, and then we move into the spiritual. But you had that kind of spiritual opening and real intuitive connection with this 15-6. It was about you in the worldly sense. It's about you coming into trust of that and accessing it. So this is a kind of associated with the gut, so a real gutting. It might initially been just in the worldly sense a kind of a real gut instinct, what you needed to do and where you needed to go, but it was something that would have expanded very much into an intuitive connection with this and really opened up to intuition. And this is about bringing your inner world out. So we see this circle, an inner circle, and this outer circle. And that inner circle is about bringing the divine within into the outside, into the outer. So the divine within, divine without, and really making peace with that, you know, really making peace with that spiritual connection with here. So kind of a little bit of a spiritual journey and an emotional journey for you with this in your worldly sense.
Just a little bit. Yes, just a little bit. Now I do want, because I know that Anita has mentioned, which of course I am a psychic medium and those energies are definitely in my chart, but I do want to, I've only been a psychic medium and training for a few years. I really, early on, I have worked in corporate America. I have been a financial planner. I have taught college for 20 years. I have just done a lot of other things outside of psychic mediumship. And so the reason I'm bringing that to everyone's attention is just because I could take this chart and never become a psychic medium. I could use those energies to have continued being a financial planner, because how they worked is, in the financial planning world, is I really intuitively knew what the goals of my clients were, like what they were trying to accomplish. In corporate America, I just had an instinct of what I needed to do to reach goals, what systems needed to come together. I managed people. I had an intuitive ability to figure out what's going on with them. You know, if someone came in, instantly I knew if they were having a rough day or if I needed to go talk to them about something. So when you look at these energies, there's so many different ways to implement them into this world. So if you have spiritual, it would have been nice, even if I had been in corporate America and never decided to go and become a psychic medium, to see these numbers, to know that I was innately wise at a gut instinct level so I could trust it.
Yeah, definitely.
That is my big regret, is not trusting my gut more.
Most definitely. And that was your goal in the worldly sense. And I always say that, because some people, when they come to me, they say, oh, I've just wasted so many years or something like that. But you would have laid so many beautiful foundations in there. And it is often what we do in the worldly then becomes something more expanded. So you learned systems, you mentioned systems, which is a very 11-2 energy, that kind of planning, that structure is a very 11-2 your talent, perfectly there. And you learned that, and it just gave you an easy access to understand anything that has a kind of a structure or a system to it. But you had that other part of you that had to learn to actually trust and go with the gut and go with your intuitive feeling as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I do like to remind people when they say, it's like, oh my goodness, that makes me. No, a goal is just that. It's a goal. So we're working towards it. That's what we're working towards. You're not going to automatically reach that goal, because then there's no journey involved.
Yeah.
So it's all about kicking in those talents, using the key. I love Anita's analogy on that, using the key to open the door to get to the other side so you can accomplish those goals.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we kind of traveled through my worldly side. Do you have any other comments about that?
No, some people, if they do see the 11-2, we've got computer programmers with an 11-2. You know, quite often, you know, you get counselors, you get computer programmers. That shows you just how wide, but long as there's something to do with the structure there as well. So,
and it's true, because you know, I did have all that structure in those jobs. The financial planning, very structured. Working in corporate America, very structured. Even now, the way I approach my mediumship is somewhat structured. I have a very, to my client coming to me, I'm just reading. In my head, I'm going through a checklist at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I still have a very structured method of doing that. Same thing when I teach any classes to do with mediumship, very structured. I have to, I can't function otherwise. I'm sure that's shocking to you, Anita. I can't function without my structure.
But the 11-2 is why we connect, and you liked my teaching method, because I've got an 11-2 in my chart. So my own chart has an 11-2. So I'm able to hold the structure in the spiritual, spiritual structure as well. So,
and you will find that. So so Anita and I have some matching energy, and that's probably why I was drawn to her and why she resonated with me so well, because that structure in which she offered in the class fit me perfectly. Yes, show me step 1, 2, 3. That's what I need. And so I very much appreciated that. Okay, so now we're going to pop over to the spiritual side. Typically, you see people really opening up fully into the spiritual side a little bit later in life, in their 30s or so. I was a late bloomer. I always like to say I was a late bloomer. And as we mentioned earlier, I am seeing people coming into the spiritual side a little bit earlier, just because of the changing in the energetic vibration of the earth as a whole.
Yeah.
Now, to start off with my spiritual challenge, again, I have that 8-8 as a challenge. So that's the first thing I notice, or you will notice if you look at this chart, is I have the same challenges. That 8-8 doubles up. So instantly, that was something I was put on this earth to really work with and to overcome. So you want to talk a little bit about those challenges, Anita?
Okay, so so it's moved into the spirituals. So here we've got the 8-8 in the spiritual challenge. So they can part of this is it will continue the sensitivity, and this is probably an energetic sensitivity with this one. But part of this is to actually come into your spiritual. There will be a resistance initially, hence you probably said a late bloomer. There's a resistance from the 8-8 energy to actually step into the spiritual. There's They tend to get a little bit stuck and tend to get a little bit overthinky things and kind of not move past difficult situations, or moving forward and committing to moving into spiritual work with this one. So that is probably a good explanation of why you say I'm a late bloomer.
I will just say guilty as charged to all that Anita just said. Yes, all of that is absolutely true. I was very resistant. And even now, when you're doing mediumship, everyone has something within them, as in any job, that you feel like is a hindrance that you really have to pay attention to. And mine is over analyzing the information I'm getting from spirit. Sometimes the spirit will show me things and I'll be like, what am I seeing? Of course, after doing it for so many years, I have learned to trust it more, overcome that challenge, and learn to just give what I get. And even the craziest things that I see in spirit are exactly what I'm seeing. But I did have that challenge, and I came into it late. Looking back, I could see that I was really being pulled for many years to move into that side. And I was very resistant to it. Yeah. And so then at one point when my guides were, I call it my 2x4 moment. And, when you feel like you're being pulled by spirit and they're tapping you on your shoulder and you're like, yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you. And then I call it getting hit over the head by the 2x4. So I had my 2x4 moment, and then I had, then you charge forward. And that was one thing I'll say with the 8-8 is once you overcome those challenges, then it's almost a 180. And then you're like, okay, yeah, let's go. Okay, I'm good. Let's go. So any other thing to say about the spiritual challenges of the 8-8?
Yeah, so the 8-8, I would have asked about how you would, because knowing that you are a mother now, it would also bring up some things here as you transition into mothering, because it is that earth mother energy again. So there can be you might have found that a little bit of a shock. There can be some elements of that would have maybe have come up with an 8 as you grew up into it.
What the challenge for me was, as being a mother, and I'm sure this will resonate with some people out there, is that I became a mother young. I got married young, became a mother young. And as I mentioned on the worldly side, so the worldly part of the challenge kind of fed over into the spiritual side, in that I did not have, I had a less than stellar upbringing. So, as a mother, if you just don't have any barometer. So there was nothing I could look at in my childhood and say, you know what, I really liked it when my mom did that, so I'm going to do that. But I didn't like it when she did that. So, there was just nothing for me to gauge my mothering against. So the challenge for me was how to be a proper mom. So the only thing I could do was to do the opposite of everything that had been done to me as a child, and lots of reading. So the challenge of mothering to me really came about, how do you do it in general? How do you love and nurture this human being without being too loving and nurturing, without being too strict? And so some of my worldly challenge really fed into the spiritual challenge of that, as I became a mother, on how to navigate, just how to be a good mom. And my poor children.
People know, because remember, you have it as that dominant vibration as well. So
yes,
it was there. It was there, and it was waiting. It just needed you to access that mothering energy.
I do want to say that I do have I have 3 girls who are just brilliantly different in their personalities and how they accomplish the world. They're very successful when it comes to, degrees and families and all. And so people are constantly complimenting me on my kids. And I always say, those poor children, they turned into beautiful human beings in spite of me, not because of me.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say your 8-8 energies, you have it all there. It was just, I think there's probably, can get stuck in the emotional side of it or the overthinking part of it, and not the feeling part of it. And then once that kicked in, it was, once you started to overcome those 8-8 challenges, it was ready to go, and you would have been delivered, a beautiful mother, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will admit, because once I got over trying to analyze the motherhood, and because I didn't have that barometer, so I didn't really know where to start. So then instantly the challenge of the 8-8 is going to be, okay, well, I don't know, so I'm going to analyze the tar out of it.
Yeah.
And so then once you get over the analyzing part and realize that you just need to walk into the nurturing part of it, and everything will be fine. So you're absolutely right. Once I rolled into the nurturing, I quickly realized, well, that's really all you need to do is nurture in a healthy manner. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, so now we talked about the spiritual challenges. We're going to roll over to the spiritual talents, which are an 18-9. Do you want to start us off on that?
Yeah, so the 18-9, we have these little lines going down and then 2 directions. And this is about, the 18-9 is an energy about choosing to go with spirit and actually commit and work with spirit. But also it's a very futuristic energy. So this is about, and it's quite interesting because your 8-8 energy is a lot about the past, and they can hold, a lot about the past. But this 18-9 is about bringing things forward and taking all the past life, all the past experiences, and bringing them forward and using them in a very forward thinking way. So you have this real, I see with your talents, and particularly this talent is about taking a lot of past stuff and being able to bring that together in a way that brings it and allows a movement forward, taking things into a future way of thinking. So I'd say something from coaching is absolutely perfect for somebody like an 18 with an 18-9 talent there.
Absolutely. And I've always felt that. I know an 18-9 is kind of an old soul energy. And I have always felt, I'm not trying to change anyone's belief system on this podcast. So what doesn't resonate with you, just please leave it. Don't take it with you. But I've always felt, even as a young child, I would have deja vu moments. I was thinking, this is not my first time here. Even as a young child, I would have those thoughts. And also some of the energies are that so one of the talents is the 18-9 is really not afraid to speak their truth, which is a beautiful energy to have to overcome that 8-8 challenge, where we don't like the change and don't like to transition into forward thinking type concepts. So the 18-9 brings some beautiful energies in to overcome. And I will say also the 18-9 is good at envisioning future goals. Right now, I do not work on anything in my business, give a soul plan to anyone without envisioning where this can go.
Yeah.
And so those are some great ways of how this is. Oh, and one other thing is the 18-9 is a finalizing number. They're good at making decisions.
Yeah, it's a real decision maker energy. It's like really able to push forward and go through some of the difficult choices and say, okay, we can, let's take this forward still. So they really get to the end of the projects.
Which I will say can be a blessing and a curse, because if I'm in a corporate world or if I'm in a business area and a decision needs to be made, I understand that there is not, the 18-9 is good at understanding there's not a perfect decision. You just have to make the best decision given the circumstances you have. And so I'm very good. It's like, yeah, well, no, this is not a perfect decision. There is no perfect decision, but we have to make one. Let's go. And if you're working with people who are not with the same mentality, you can kind of like, get in a little bit of a struggle there. So that's some beautiful 18-9 energies. And now, again, the same concept. I love Anita's analogy of the challenges of my 8-8 or the closed door. The 18-9 are the key to open that door to get to the other side, which are my goals. And so the spiritual goals are this 20-2. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Okay, so for you, you've got another polarity energy coming up as a goal. So this is the ones where we can experience things as an equal and an opposite. And this is the one associated with war and peace. So there is an aspect with your goals about making peace and coming into a peaceful state with this. So, and that was something really that comes through when we connect with your chart, making peace with the past and taking it forward. So there's a lot of, and being really kind of flexible, getting and adaptive, moving into it. It looks like a little river, and it's been able to ride that river, where going through the turbulent times, going through the quiet times, but actually still moving and keep moving and moving forward with this, rather than getting stuck. So we know your 8/8s can get very stuck with this, and this one is about you getting moving forward, exploring new ways, exploring new landscapes and new options with this. So there is a real, this energy often moves beyond the cultural expectations, or moving beyond expectations. So it might be that your past was like being spiritual was probably maybe absolutely not where anybody would have expected you to go, but this is about moving outside of those norms and being willing to break through past limitations with this. And so with this one, and it's kind of going with the flow of spirits as well. I feel it is about coming into that flow. So there's a lot of elements of in your goal positions with that 15/6 and that 22, that 20-2 energy is about making peace and going and trusting the spiritual journey with this as well, being willing to explore it and fully explore it.
Absolutely. Well said. I just love Anita's interpretation of these energies. She has a real talent for being able to word them in a way that resonates with your life. And so she's absolutely right. I'm very much moving forward thinking when it comes to the spiritual realm and how I run my business, constantly charging forward. This 18 or the 20-2 is also one of, they tend to, Anita mentioned it, be explorers. And so you take several trips. Also, they can be explorer of knowledge, which I'm constantly taking new courses and getting certifications. I was laughing the other day, and my social media person was like, Christy, how many certifications do you have now? I was like, oh yeah, just put it on there, hold the phone, because I'm about to get another one. Because I'm constantly just exploring, adding, information and wanting to just see what else is out there and charging forward. Something else that the hobbies of this 20-2 tend to be hobbies that involve movement. And I have noticed that if I'm feeling stuck and that 8/8 has reared its head and I'm feeling stuck, I really have to get up and move. Whether it's walking outside or taking laps around my house, I have to do some kind of movement. And so that is something that when you have this soul plan and you see these energies there and you recognize, I'll be sitting at my desk and now I recognize, you know what, no ideas are coming to me. I'm completely stuck on how I want to implement this new course or what I want to do. I'll get up, go walk, gets my creative juices flowing.
And isn't that the wonderful thing that we do with Soul Plan as well? We give people some tools or ideas how to start shifting their energies. So that's exactly what, when we're giving a full Soul Plan reading, we make suggestions, because we know that an 8/8 can get stuck. And this would suggest that movement, things like dance, yoga, or whatever. In your case, I would say moving in nature, because of all those 8/8s.
Right.
A good walk in nature will start getting things shifted, a good explore of nature. But we see that and we can feed that back to give people some tools, some self-empowering tools to help them shift as well.
Yes, I do have to laugh because if I have a full day of readings and appointments, my calendar has like a 10-minute break in between my appointments built in. I will run outside and barefoot, stand out there in the grass and just really like push my feet down into the ground. I was doing that the other day. My neighbor was out walking his dog because, it was in my home office. I was like, hi, Christy, what are you doing? Oh, nothing, just taking a little break. But I was really like burrowing my feet down into the grass that were barefoot. So I can imagine what that man thought I was doing. Okay, so now we've kind of walked through my journey, my worldly journey, my spiritual journey, really talked through those energies coming in. Now we're going to arrive at the soul destiny, which again is where you're headed. I know some people look at this and think, oh my goodness, I'm not doing this. No, because it's a destiny, it's a journey, enjoy it. And that's where you're headed. And, yes, we can kick in the positive energies of it, but it's here about recognition of what you're bringing in positivity and what you have access to, not that you should be there. So again, my soul destiny is at 88, the last of the 8s in my chart. And this is the last number we talk about when we do a soul plan. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in the destiny. So I do want to mention real quick, because we've talked about 8/8s being all over my chart. According to where your numbers are in your chart, they bring in different energies. So my worldly challenge 8/8 brought in a different energy of the spiritual challenge of an 8/8. And now we have the soul destiny in 8/8, which is in positivity. So it certainly brings in different energies.
Yeah, most definitely. So each energy has a quality to it, but then an individual quality based on where it's positioned. So just with soul destiny, it's like the ultimate goal of your soul. It's where it's coming home to itself. And I always say that the star actually looks like a flower, and it's like as we journey through it, as we move through, it's like each of those are a petal that unfolds, revealing our soul destiny. So sometimes, depending on where somebody is in their journey through their soul plan chart, they might be further away, and it might be their initial reaction to hearing their soul destiny is like, no, and and then but it unfolds as those petals, depending. And then some people who have maybe already made it to their spiritual goals, it's just that small hop, that the little nudge to know how they can really get and make the most expanded version of themselves. So your 8/8 is to bring spiritual energies into the earth realm. It's that's what it's about. And it can be done we often say the 8/8 is about spiritualizing the mundane. So you could have done it, though you've now worked very much in the spiritual sense, you could have done it in a very earthly kind of way. And I've known 8/8 people who've been a community gardener for mental health issues. And that could be exactly how an 8/8 can work. It's still a very spiritual way of working. But with all those 8/8s, it would be, I would expect your clairvoyance to be being asked to be brought into the world. And it is to do that, to nurture society, to nurture people, to help them with that emotional self as well with it. So from your own, you'll know from your own experiences how an 8/8 can be quite difficult, but this is then asking you to actually help others through difficult emotional situations and with it, and provide that guidance using spiritual energies.
And I will say that anytime I've managed a business where people reported to me, this 8/8 energy really did me a lot of justice in that, because it's an emotionally intelligent number. So I understood. I didn't always agree. I'm not saying that 8/8 agrees with other ways people are looking at things, but it's emotionally intelligent, so it understands their motives. And this 8/8 has a great ability to, in my world, what we call hold space for people, to create that love environment where they can feel grounded. And I can remember one of the places I had people working for me, I would, had a little cube and they would come over there, and I noticed I didn't know why at the time because I was young. I was in my 20s. And the people would just come over and download on me. It could be about work. It could be about home. It could be about anything. And then all of a sudden they'd look at me and I'd say, I feel so much better now. Oh, okay. I mean, I would have just sat there and not really said a whole lot, maybe given her a couple of prompts here and there, but it was just, so I have noticed that the 8/8 has a great ability to bring spirit into anything they do. It doesn't have to just be, the spiritual realm of doing mediumship. Also,
they're a very practical, pragmatic way of helping as well. It's like very earthly. We could say they're an earth angel, or as well. It's that typical earth archetypal earth mother energy. Very practical, very pragmatic help. It doesn't have to be the all the angels and spirits and things, though obviously they have access to that, but it doesn't have to be the way that they do that for society and people. It's about bringing that kind of emotional nurturing energy to the world.
Yes, absolutely, because no matter what realm I'm in, what role I've played in my entire life, I've always been the type of, I will admit, yeah, this situation sucks and I'm sorry this happened to you, but you can't keep looking back because that doesn't fix it. So how can we move forward? Pretty much that, okay, I'm along beside you. I'm going to help you carry this burden, but we do have to move forward because that's really the only option, which is where that pragmatic mothering role comes through, which I'm sure my children would have, because I had to laugh the first time I had a soul plan, because that is absolutely the way I would mother my kids. It's like, okay, yeah, this sucks, but okay, what are we going to do about it? How can we fix it? How can we move forward? Yes. So that is overall my soul plan. I know we did a pretty good job walking through it in pretty good detail. Typically, when you come for a soul plan, they will last. I know, how long are your soul plan alone appointments, Anita?
75 minutes. So I tell people it's 75 minutes. They might go a little bit longer, but not much. So I usually, within 75 minutes, we can go through a full soul plan, how to move forward, and we obviously do a little healing session as well, just to help with that alignment, soul alignment at the end as well.
Absolutely. Well, if you come to me for a soul plan, it lasts right at, and I can usually get them done and do there's again a little bit of a healing meditation at the end, right about an hour is the way I do them. I do one of my popular appointments, as I mentioned before, is the mediumship and soul plan all together. Now, you can reach Anita on her website if you just go, and I can attest to this before you even know who she was. If you Google soul plan, Anita's going to come up, but also Anita Marshall. I will have her website in the verbiage attached to this recording, however you're listeing to it. I do encourage you to
search Anita D Marshall. If they search Anita D Marshall, I will definitely be there.
Yes. That is her website, www.anitad, for as in dog, D, Marshall. And Marshall has 2 L's on it. I want to bring that up. And she has a class coming up June 28th for anyone who is interested in learning the soul plan. And I highly recommend Anita as a teacher. Just lays a great foundation, beautiful way of putting you step by step through the plan. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Anita. I appreciate it so very much.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. I love talking about soul plans. So as soon as you asked me, it was like, yes, most definitely, because I just think it's such a valuable system for people. And I think the more people can hear about it, then we get so many more people coming into alignment and knowing how to connect with their light, shine their light. And obviously that's going to bring a beautiful growth and a raising of vibration in the world. And that's what we want, we want to bring the world into that beautiful light, connected energy.
Well said. Well said. So thank everyone for being here today, listening to this. Check Anita out on her website, www.anitadmarshall.com, 2 L's in Marshall. My website is Christy Godwin Psychic Medium. You can also email me, ask any questions at christygodwin111@gmail.com. Thank you everyone for being here and have a blessed day.